Rode this to work today. It's a 20-minute ride, 25-minute ride, and it was okay for about 20 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes it was kind of boggy, and I noticed at the stoplight that it was leaking oil. So I think it's leaking from either the shifter, but it looks like it's coming from behind the sprocket cover. So I'm going to pull the sprocket cover off, see if it's leaking behind the sprocket shaft, and worst comes to worst, I have to replace the seal. Let's see what happens. Looks like it is leaking from in here somewhere. I gotta pull the sprocket off to see if it's leaking from the shaft, the drive shaft. But it says it's a 15 tooth sprocket, and I'll have to look up what the OEM, how many teeth the OEM sprocket has. It looks new, so I'm thinking he put a bigger sprocket on there. So I have it might be a 14 tooth sprocket. That's the original size. So if 14 is the size that it's supposed to have, I'm going to put the 14 tooth on there. I'm going to order a 14 tooth, of course, after I fix the seal. But one more thing to do. Finally got the replacement parts for the seal, and I think I'm supposed to cut this little nub off of there. I looked online, and Revzilla had a picture where this is on, and I got this from 4-to-1 website, and I don't know. I'm not gonna cut it off yet, but now I'm gonna pull the old seal out, see if I need to pull that off or not. I also got a 14 tooth which is the OEM size sprocket versus the 15 tooth one. Show you a little difference there. Alright, so I'm going to pull the seal out. I didn't see any videos where somebody pulled it off a 1972 XL250, but hopefully that comes off, so any seal on any motorcycle is the same. So let's get started. I got a pick and some scribes to pick it out, so let's see if I can get it out. Okay, I'm going to gently start pulling this off, and if it doesn't come out, then I'll get a little more strong. I think I got it. I had to use a couple of screwdrivers to pry the lip up, and then I got a hold of it, a hold of the lip with the vice grips, and it looks like it's starting to come out. I hope that's right. There we go. Yep. There it is. Got it out. That was a pain. So, see, I had to pry out the lip and then grab the end. So, I'm gonna clean this out. Make sure it's, I'm just gonna use WD-40 or PB Blaster or whatever, just to, that way I'm not using solvent. And then yeah, you can see it's leaking, and then I'll tap the new seal in. Looking at the old one, here's where that little nub is. Here's where the old seal nub is. So yeah, they definitely cut it off. So I'll be cutting that little nub off to tap it in. And this is the inside, so the bevel is pointing away from the bike. Apparently the side with the nub goes towards the outside of the seal housing, not towards the inside. The nub stays on if you're installing it with the engine case removed. Otherwise, you need to cut the nub off to tap it into the seal housing. I can see why the previous owner put it in backwards, because the drawing on Partzilla looks like the nub is on the inside direction of the seal. However, if you look closely at the seal, at the seam of the seal, the outside of the nub is slightly larger than the other side. So the non-nub side is slightly smaller, and it makes it easier to start inserting the seal into the housing. I didn't realize this the first seal that I put in, so I put it in the same way as the previous seal, which had the nub that was cut off towards the inside. The problem is this caused the outer part of the seal to get ripped. I tapped it in, but I don't know if that's normal. It shaved a little bit on the outside off. It's a little bit crooked. Let me tap the top in just a little bit more. But if it leaks, I'll get another one, and what I'll do is I'll probably sand the edge to make a bevel. It was like 11 bucks, so yeah, hate to lose that money for nothing, but it's a learning curve. Which caused the seal not to seat correctly, and it kept leaking. So I had to buy a second seal. And when I was getting ready to install the second seal, I wanted to slightly sand the outer edge of the seal housing to make it bevel, to make it go in a little easier and not catch the outer edge of the seal to cut it like the previous seal. And before I did the sanding, I did jam a strip of paper towel into the seal housing to prevent the sanding dust from getting into the bearing inside, which is highly recommended. And when I did this, after I did the sanding, I went to do a fit test with the seal, and I didn't really think that the one side was smaller than the other, so I just stuck one side in, and it just slid in easily. I'm like, what? And that's when I noticed that one side of the seal, the non-nub side, was smaller than the nub side. So make sure when you're tapping in the seal to fit either side, to make sure that the smaller side goes in, and then start tapping. Now, while you're tapping the seal with a big socket, make sure you grease all the edges to make it slide in a little easier, and go very, very slowly and tap very slightly, and kind of adjust the amount of force you tap it with, and periodically check to make sure that the outer edge is not catching. And I did that by using a screwdriver to just kind of wedging it to make sure that the rubber is going underneath the mouth of the seal housing. And then also I tapped the center, and then also alternated to tapping the outer ridge of the seal to make sure it goes in straight. Don't just tap the center, because if the outer edge gets caught, you're gonna push the center in too far, and you could break the seal. So go back and forth, tap a little bit, check, tap a little bit more, check. And it took about 10 minutes to get the seal completely tapped in, but it definitely assured that the seal went in correctly and right. that was the fix. There is no leak. I got it going 55 miles an hour. Engine was hot, and it's still dry. So, thumbs up. Yeah, for those who have an XL250 1972, you gotta make sure the seal goes in the right way, and make sure you tap it in on the edge, on the outer edge, slowly, so it doesn't shave off the rim. But yeah, that was that took a lot of patience. All right, I hope that helps somebody. Later.